Sahara Desert. And I talked to Jordan about, why did you keep on coming back to this generosity thing? The legacy continues in Jordan. And you might be a little embarrassed, but I'm going to share and brag on this boy a little bit. I've never seen such a generous kid. And I'm Jordan's youth pastor, and I can tell you lots of stories about him and how Grandpa rubbed off on him on a lot of the practical jokes that I'm hearing about. But what rubbed off on Jordan was this incredible heart of generosity. I've seen Jordan empty his wallet, whether it was his own money or the money his dad gave him, and give it to any sort of cause that we were talking about. He said, here, I want it to go to this. We had a student of ours that was homeless and living out of his car, a high school kid. Jordan came up to me and said, how can I help him? Talked it over with his dad, and Jordan wanted to take his whole paycheck, every paycheck he got from work, he wanted to take that whole paycheck, which went to go pay his school bills, and he said, I want to give it to help this boy out. And he helped that young man out because of that generosity. The legacy of Grandpa still continues. And I think this is an incredible thing, Jordan, that you have continued, that you have seen as you've seen your grandpa. Jordan is going to try to read a personal letter, and he's going to do a fantastic job.
Grandpa, I want to thank you for everything that you have given up or gone through to make my life and the life of our family the best it can be. Thank you for being the father that you were to my dad, because you passed it on to him. I thank you for that, because I want to keep it going with my kids. You have showed me so much and taught me so much as I have grown up. Your legacy will always be remembered. You have gone above and beyond for others and have touched so many people's lives in your lifetime. I will miss you so much, Grandpa. I will never forget you and the memories we have shared. You are an amazing grandpa, dad, and friend. The friendship we have will be cherished forever. I love you, Grandpa, and I will never forget you.
Amen. A man through the eyes of his grandchildren. Before Jennifer, another grandchild, comes up and shares, I would be remiss if I didn't say what I think Gerald would say right now. If you're a grandpa, you heard those words, you want those words said about you. You still have a chance. Devote your life as Gerald did to his family and his grandchildren. Jennifer?
Both granddaughters are going to do it. Where do you start? It's almost an impossible task to say something about someone that you have known most of your life in just a short moment. Anyone that knew our grandfather knew that he lived a life that could only be considered incredible. We can remember time and time again listening to the stories, sometimes for the first, but often for the second, third, and fourth time, of the places he went, the things that he saw, and the people that he reached. His memories of the experience were vivid and consuming. Whenever he took the time to share the stories of his life, you were always completely immersed in the details. Sharing was something that our grandfather loved to do, whether it was with the church, with Jordan's basketball team, or just the family. He loved to share knowledge and experiences with the hopes that it would somehow help guide us through our own challenges. All we can do is hope to pass along the lessons that we learned from Grandpa as he had passed them on to us.
We've heard it said that the greatest use of life is to spend it for something that will outlast us. We truly believe that Grandpa did that. He worked hard to leave us something that would outlast him. For each of us, it would be different, whether it would be a laugh, a memory, or a lesson. But we have all been touched. And in the end, as Abraham Lincoln said, it is not your years in your life that count, but it's life in your years. Grandpa lived a long life, but more than that, a very fulfilling one.
That was Jacqueline and Jennifer, so we had a little change in the program I didn't know about, which was good. How will you be remembered? We remember Gerald in such a grand way. One more snippet also, now from one of the daughter-in-laws. Jess? Oh.
This is just a little snippet of a time when I met my father-in-law for the first time. And Denny and I had flown into the property in Idaho. And as Danny has explained, that it's very isolated. And there's lots of nature around, and you're in the cabin, and there's really not much to do. One of the things that Dad liked to do was to have a really hot competitive game of Scrabble. And I have an English background, so I know words pretty well. And so we played a game of Scrabble. And I really can't remember who won that game that night, but that was my first encounter with playing games with Dad, and I knew that I was really meeting somebody that was going to give me a match at Scrabble. So the next morning, I got up, and I came into the main cabin, and I looked around, and there's Dad lying on the couch. And I thought he was ill. And Denny kind of went, I said, what's going on? He said, and I realized then what Dad had done. Because I knew that we would be playing another game of Scrabble sometime that day. And I looked over, and there he is, lying on his back, pretending that he's deep in concentration, and he has this big dictionary beside him. And from the dictionary are these wires that he has taped to the dictionary and then taped to the top of his head. Said, oh dear, I'm not going to win at Scrabble tonight, I know that. But that just gives you a little vignette and a little picture of what a practical joker he was. And we had many a game of Scrabble after that. And one of his very favorite things to do was to take 2 letters and turn it into like 60 points at the very end of the game, and you're thinking, you're going to win, but he's got it under control. And that was just he just brought a lot of laughter to our lives in the times that we spent together. And that was one of the things that he really enjoyed, was to make you laugh.
I've always been amazed at Gerald's life. Past retirement, he and Evelyn were engaged by our government, by the Kosovar government, to go over there and repatriate 5,000 of the people from the Civil War. How do you get a job like that unless you have incredible skills? I learned in hanging around Gerald, you always had to be careful, though, because he was always pulling your leg, and you never knew quite. And the last story that I want to tell you, I share that with you because I had known Gerald for 20 years, and we were over at Dale and Kathy's having lunch one day, and as we were sitting there visiting, Dad looked over and he said, by the way, you know who Terry Anderson is, don't you? Well, I mean, anyone my age or near that would know who Terry Anderson was. He was one of the hostages that was kept by the Hezbollah for over 5 years in the country of Jordan. And, you know, I'd read about his life and I'd read things about him. And Gerald looked at me and said, "Did I ever tell you?"